It was 2:17 in the morning when he checked his bank account for the third time. 43 euros. Rent would leave the account tomorrow. His car had started making a strange noise. And the unopened envelope on the kitchen table probably wasn't good news. He stared at the number, trying to understand how this had happened. Because 6 months earlier he had received the best news of his career. A promotion. A larger salary. 400 extra euros every month. Back then he believed that amount would change everything. So why was he sitting in the dark, afraid of checking his own account? To understand that, we need to go back 6 months. It was an ordinary Monday morning. He was at work, answering emails and counting the hours until he could go home. Then a message from his manager appeared. There was a new position available. More responsibility. A better title. And a salary increase. He read the message twice. Then a third time. For years he had told himself that money was the source of his stress. If he could only earn a little more, life would finally become easier. He would stop calculating the price of every item in the supermarket. He would build an emergency fund. Maybe he could take a proper holiday. And for the first time in years he would not have to wait for payday before feeling safe. Walking home that evening, even the city looked different. The rain didn't bother him. The crowded bus didn't bother him. For once, the future appeared to be moving toward him instead of running away. When his first larger salary arrived, he made a promise. I'm not going to waste this. And he meant it. He did not buy a luxury watch. He did not book an expensive holiday. He did not walk into a dealership and buy a sports car. In fact, the first few weeks were almost exactly the same as before. Then one evening his phone fell from the kitchen counter. The screen cracked from one corner to the other. He could still use it. But now that he was earning more, replacing it no longer seemed irresponsible. He had used the old one for years. He worked hard. And there was a monthly payment option that barely looked expensive. So he bought the new phone. It felt incredible. For about 9 days. Then it simply became his phone. A few weeks later he invited some colleagues to his apartment. The place suddenly looked smaller than he remembered. The furniture didn't match. The walls were thin. And every time the neighbor moved a chair, the entire ceiling seemed to complain. One of his colleagues looked around and said, "You're still living here?" It was probably a joke. But the sentence stayed with him. That night he began looking at apartments online. He found one with larger windows, a modern kitchen and enough space for a proper desk. The rent was higher. But not impossibly higher. Besides, wasn't this the reason he had worked for a promotion? A month later he moved in. The first morning was perfect. Sunlight filled the room. The kitchen looked like something from a video. For the first time he felt as though his home matched the life he was trying to build. But the new apartment made his old furniture look cheap. So he replaced the table. Then the chair. Then the lamp. Nothing extravagant. Only the things that now seemed out of place. Meanwhile, work became more demanding. The promotion came with longer meetings, additional responsibilities and messages that continued after working hours. By the time he arrived home, cooking felt like another job. Ordering dinner cost only a little more. And it gave him an extra hour at the end of the day. At first he ordered food every Friday. Then every difficult day. Eventually, almost every day felt difficult. His life had become more comfortable. But somehow he was not becoming calmer. Payday still felt like relief. The final week of every month still felt unusually long. And the emergency fund he planned to build still had nothing inside it. He told himself he would start next month. Then the car began causing problems. It was old, unreliable and slightly embarrassing. Every strange sound made him imagine an enormous repair bill. One afternoon, while waiting at a traffic light, he saw a new car beside him. The driver looked relaxed. The car was clean, silent and probably much safer. That evening he began researching monthly payments. He wasn't looking for anything ridiculous. Just something dependable. Something that would not break. Something appropriate for a person in his new position. The payment appeared manageable. So he signed the contract. And for a few days driving felt exciting again. Then the new car became the place where he sat in traffic on his way to work. But the payment remained new every month. His life now looked noticeably better. A modern apartment. A new phone. A reliable car. Restaurant deliveries arriving at the door. Streaming services for the evenings when he was too tired to go anywhere. From the outside, the promotion had worked perfectly. Then one Tuesday night the washing machine stopped. Water spread slowly across the bathroom floor. He called a repair company. The technician examined it for less than a minute and named a price. It was not a catastrophic amount. It was not enough to ruin someone's life. But it was more money than he had available. Standing beside the broken machine, he realized something that made him feel physically uncomfortable. He was earning more than he had ever earned before. And one ordinary household repair was still an emergency. He paid with a credit card. That night at 2:17 in the morning he sat alone in the kitchen. 43 euros remained in his account. Rent was coming tomorrow. The car was making a strange noise. And an unopened envelope waited on the table. He felt angry. At his employer. At the cost of living. At the washing machine. For a moment he even considered searching for another job with a larger salary. Then he opened his banking application and looked through the previous 6 months. He expected to find one terrible decision. One purchase that explained everything. But there was no single disaster. Instead, there were dozens of small, reasonable decisions. The phone payment. The higher rent. The car. The furniture. The food deliveries. The subscriptions he barely remembered starting. Each one had seemed harmless on its own. Together, they had consumed not only his raise, but the little breathing room he had before it. That was when he finally understood. His salary had increased. But his life had expanded to meet it. Every extra euro had been assigned a job before it reached him. This is lifestyle inflation. And it is one of the reasons earning more does not always make people feel richer. It does not normally arrive as one reckless purchase. It arrives disguised as progress. A slightly better apartment. A slightly newer car. A slightly easier evening. Every upgrade has a reasonable explanation. And because each individual decision feels small, you rarely notice the cage forming around you. There was another force working against him too. Every new thing became normal remarkably quickly. The phone that once felt exciting was now just a phone. The beautiful apartment had become the place where he worried about rent. The new car had become another monthly obligation. His comfort increased, but his expectations increased with it. So he needed more money to feel exactly as secure as he had felt before. The next morning he did not cancel everything. He did not sell all his possessions. And he did not promise to survive on noodles for the rest of his life. He knew that kind of punishment would last for a week and then collapse. Instead he made one rule. The next time his income increased, part of the increase would never become part of his lifestyle. It would leave his account automatically on payday. Before he could spend it. Before he could adjust to seeing it. Before it could become another payment. He also examined the life he had already built. He canceled the subscriptions he had forgotten. He reduced the deliveries but kept one evening each week when he could order whatever he wanted. He stopped buying furniture for an apartment that was already fully furnished. The car and rent could not disappear overnight. But no new monthly payment would be added without another one leaving first. The changes felt almost disappointingly small. There was no dramatic transformation. No moment when money suddenly became easy. But at the end of the first month, something unusual happened. A little money remained. Then it happened again. And again. Slowly the emergency fund began to grow. Not fast enough to impress anyone. Not fast enough for an exciting social media post. But fast enough to change how ordinary problems felt. Several months later the car made that strange noise again. This time the mechanic named the price. He felt the familiar tension rise inside him. Then he remembered the money waiting in his emergency account. He paid the bill. No credit card. No sleepless night. No desperate calculation about how many days remained before payday. The repair still annoyed him. But it no longer frightened him. That was the first moment he actually felt richer. Not when he received the promotion. Not when he moved into the apartment. Not when he held the new phone. He felt richer when an unexpected problem remained only a problem, and did not become a crisis. A year later, another message from his manager appeared. Another opportunity. Another raise. He looked around the apartment. For a moment he imagined the next upgrade. A larger home. A more expensive car. A better version of everything he already owned. Then he opened his banking application and increased the automatic transfer. He allowed himself to enjoy part of the raise. But he refused to let all of it disappear into a more expensive life. Nothing about him looked dramatically different the next morning. His clothes were the same. His apartment was the same. His colleagues would never notice what had changed. But something had changed. He was becoming harder to scare. Maybe this story feels familiar. Maybe your salary increased, but payday is still the only day you feel relaxed. Maybe you have not bought anything outrageous, yet your money seems to disappear through dozens of perfectly reasonable payments. Maybe you believe the next raise will finally solve it. A higher income can change your life. But only if some of it is allowed to remain yours. Otherwise, every raise simply builds a more comfortable cage. The goal is not to reject every improvement or feel guilty whenever you enjoy your money. The goal is to choose which upgrades genuinely improve your life, and which ones only help you look successful. Because real financial progress is often invisible. It is the bill you can pay without panic. The job you can leave when it begins destroying you. The decision you can make without waiting for payday. The peaceful night when you no longer need to check your bank account 3 times. Earning more gave him better things. Keeping more gave him back control. And in the end, that was what he had wanted from the beginning.